Hi, this is Justin from AC Hamilton in actual sunny Preston. There's a great big strange ball of fire up there, which is we don't often see. So in February 2025 we've already had the Yamaha SX720 and 920 out for a few months. I've recently just done the video showing how much hopefully showing how much better the SX720 is than the SX700. The postman's just coming in the door.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
But hopefully I'm going to show you just on the quality of the sounds and the styles how much amazing difference there is between the SX920 and the SX720, which is also already a great keyboard of course, but there is a huge difference between that and the 920, and you really do get what you pay for. But also all of these benefits of the 920 over the 720 pretty much equally apply to the SX900, because when it comes to the quality of the voices and the content of the voices, the SX900 is exactly the same, well almost exactly the same as the 720. There's actually about 9 super articulation plus sounds which are on the 720, not on the 900, but 99% basically everything that's on the voices that are on here are on the 720. I've done that again. But basically all of the voices that are on and the standard of the voices that are on the SX900 are replicated on the SX720. So essentially these two keyboards are the same in that respect, and you've got this big difference, much higher quality on the SX920. And even when it comes to some of the more technical points that make the styles better, which is the band effectively, so all of those members of the band will have effects on them, and when we see on the effects screen we can see again the 900 is the same as the 720, but on the 920 you have a lot more effects in the band. So this is a technical point, but it's basically the reason why the styles sound miles better on the 920 than either the 900 or the 720. Hopefully that's not confusing, and we'll put some screenshots up to show you that the categories of voices on the 900 are exactly the same. They've moved them around a bit, but the voices that are on the 900 are exactly the same on the 720. There's no voice on here that is not on here, but there's a shed load that are on here that are not on either of those two. Does that make sense? Here we are in the Woodwind category of the SX920, and what happens is when they bring out a new keyboard with better quality of voices, as a general rule all the better quality of voices get pushed to the front of the queue, so that's page 1, page 2, page 3. So here we are on the Woodwind category on page 1. Now on this particular page there's 10, of all pages there's 10 sounds, but only 2 out of these 10 voices on this page are actually on the SX720. All of these other sounds, these lovely sounds, super articulation 2 sounds, ballad soprano sax, pop soprano sax, SA2 tenor sax, etc., are on the 920 but not on the 720, and also of course, as we've said, not on the 900, because the 900, when it comes to these pages of voices, when it comes to the quality of voices, is exactly the same. So whatever you're seeing on the 720 screen also applies to the SX900. So these voices the very first one there is the ballad soprano sax SA2, but if we go to the SX720, the first soprano sax we've got is just the one that just says soprano sax. And what's the difference? It's still a nice sound, but what happens? There's just not a lot of change. There's not a lot of articulation in it. You know, you can't express yourself. What happens? So first, there's a lot more expression in the sound, but also you get all these natural little tweaks. And it's just not the volume that changes, all the tone of the sound changes, and you'll find, so whereas with that, you know, not a lot changes. If you whack it with a hammer or just hit it with a feather, you'll get volume change, but not a lot else. And that the same applies to all of these other sounds. So these sounds just don't exist on the SX720. So for the clarinet, I'd have to go to what? Either the orchestral clarinet maybe, or the jazz clarinet. Again with that clarinet sound, it's a nice enough sound, but there's no real human expression with it, whereas with this one, compared to what I noticed also in the process of doing that is the backing style I'm using is the good old free play ethereal movie, which works for so many things. I noticed, so I've got variation A there on the ethereal movie. I noticed that this is a lot richer. So I thought, well, why is that? So then I went into the mixer screen. See, you don't need to know how to do this, but it's just interesting to see why the ethereal movie sounds better on the 920 than the ethereal movie on the 720. Of course the speakers come into it, but also if you go into this style screen where you can see effectively all the different parts of the band. Now it kind of looks the same, except if we press into one of the parts of the band or the orchestra here, we can see the voice that it's choosing for this part of the ethereal movie backing style is Mega Voice Seattle Strings. Now if we do the same on the 920, press into the picture, we can see that it's choosing Kino Large Ambience. So it's choosing a much better voice that doesn't exist on the 720. So this will apply to all of the backing styles. So with the backing styles, you can cut this into two. You've got obviously backing styles that simply don't exist on the 720 and on 920, but then also the ones that do exist on both, like the ethereal movie we've just shown. In the part of what makes up the band, the voices that you use, because those better voices exist on the 920, that affects the backing style, even if the backing style is the same as on the 720. So it'll be a better ethereal movie because of what makes up that backing band. It'll be a better 8-beat ballad or pop rock or whatever it is, because of the drum kit's better, because the bass player is better, because the strings in the background is better. So even if it's a sound that you might not use keynote strings to play in your right hand, but it's still, that better sound affects the backing. It makes the backing better. And another thing that makes the backing, while we're on the subject, another thing that makes the backing better is the effects. So those musicians, if you think about it as a band, those musicians in the band sound better because of what's going on in how those instruments in the background are affected by what Yamaha have been able to add to them in this effects section. So there's just more, like guitarists use effects pedals and things like this. So there's just much more of that they can do with the constituent parts, if I can put it like that, constituent parts of what makes up the band. We can improve each of those constituent parts because it's using a sound that doesn't exist on the other key, it's using a better sound, and also the effects on that sound are more and better effects. So this affects everything, all of the backing styles. So I've moved on to the electric guitar section, and again we can see on page 1 of electric guitar on SX920 all of these voices simply don't exist on the SX720. So don't forget, it's all the better voices that always put through to the early pages. So it's a quick way of seeing, if you go to page 1 on SX920, go to page 1 of a guitar on SX720, you know, you can sort of instantly see that difference. So there's nothing, there's not a direct equivalent to that, so all we can do is find something that's vaguely similar. This one. So you'll find this with all of these sounds, they're just like much more high fidelity, richer sounds in all of these categories that don't exist on the 720, and of course don't forget that applies exactly the same to the SX900, which will be the same as the 720. So this screen we're looking at now, I mean I've got an SX900 over there, but I haven't got a 3-tier stand, but if you went to electric guitar page 1 of SX900, it would look exactly like this one does. In other words, it wouldn't have all of these voices from the SX920. And again, even if you don't use that guitar sound, you will still use it in the backing style, so that the importance of that quality of guitar sound, you know, applies even if you don't play any right hand, because it affects the band. You know, most of you will be playing 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and all of course sounds like that are part of the band. So it's important that the guitarist is the best guitar it can be, that the drummer's got the best drum kit it can be, and the bass player, and so on and so forth. So all of these highest standard of voices, which are throughout pretty much all of the sections of acoustic guitar, electric guitar, woodwind, drums, all affect everything, whether you use them in your right hand or not, affect all of the backing styles as well. So that's really important to know. Most of the people who buy these, you know, they don't want to go into the detail of it. They just want to, I want to play this song, I want it to sound good, and that's what the playlist does for you. And of course, you don't need to worry about all these technical details. It's just done for you. You simply play how you normally play. You know, a lot of our customers only play even a single finger chord in the left hand and a single note in the right hand. It doesn't mean that they're not good enough for the keyboard. You know, because we sometimes get that comment, oh, I don't think I'm good enough. You know, my standard of playing doesn't warrant, you know, this level or that level. And it's absolutely not the case. You know, we've got so many customers over the years who've had the flagship model, the Genos, and they only play with 2 fingers. But should they have bought that Genos? If it gives them more pleasure than the one below it or the one below it, and they can reasonably afford it, why not? If it makes them, whatever standard you are, it's going to make you sound better. It's going to put a bigger smile on your face, which is really what it's all about, isn't it? How you enjoy music when you hear something that is better, and you're able to interact more with it because of the way the sounds respond to your touch, because of how much better the backing styles are. So all of that just makes you enjoy playing more. And so whatever standard you are, you know, you will enjoy the 920 more than the 720. I mean, it doesn't take anything away from the 720. It's still a great keyboard. It doesn't take anything away from the previous models. But the truth is, you just get what you pay for, and you know, you will enjoy a 720 more than a 700. You will enjoy a 920 more than the 720. And it's just a case of, you know, just get the best that you can do, and because it will give you more enjoyment. And also, I think it does, I believe it does improve your playing as well, because when the sounds react more to what your fingers are doing, then that encourages you to, you know, put more feeling and expression into the music. If the sound doesn't change very much, no matter what your fingers do, then obviously there's less of you that you can put into the music. So I was just about to play this acoustic shuffle style, which is one of the styles from the R&B and oldies category that's on the 920, not the 720. And I was just flicking through the one-touch settings, and one thing I should mention is that, you know, another benefit is that when you simply choose a style and choose the one-touch settings, again, a lot of these one-touch settings have the higher fidelity, the higher quality sounds that are on the 920, not the 720. So, for instance, in this one, this resonator guitar here is one of those on the same soprano sax, also a sound on 920 and on 720. Then we go to one-touch setting number 1. We've got this C7 Studio Grand. Really nice clear piano sound. Again, that's a sound, just a 920 sound. Then we've got on one-touch setting number 2, we've got a folk guitar sound. Another 920 sound, and another tenor sax SA2. One-touch setting number 3, we've got the SA2 jazz violin. We've got the upright piano U3, which I then started playing. I couldn't stop playing it. I did want to show one really good thing on the playlist, because the playlist is something that we almost every day pick up the phone and helping people use the playlist. And it's a bit of a, on the SX700 and 900, you know, you press here, you press there, you go back, you choose it, you go back to playlist. You know, it's a lot of, especially when you first, it's not so bad once you know how to do it. But now what happens whenever we send these keyboards out, before we send them out, we install everything into the keyboard, and now including the playlist. And what it means, it's a lot easier now to choose, you know, your different song lists, your different playlists. So because we've got them loaded into expansion, so we see here now I've picked playlist country SX920. There's my list of songs. Of course it goes on and on. Let's say I've now exhausted all my country stuff and I want to change to something else. Watch how easy, much easier now it is. I want to go to jazz. There's my jazz list. If I want to go to Latin, there's my Latin list. See how quick and easy that is. So before, there's my easy listening list. So it's much easier to go between these different playlists. It's literally 2 clicks. So that's much better. And of course, on the 920 playlist, that will use, for the songs in the 920 playlist, that will use styles that don't exist on the 720, and even the ones that do will have the better voices. So okay, just before I go home and get my tea, as we say up here, just a couple of things I forgot to mention. So, you know, on the styles, all the styles played were on the SX920, not on the 720, and it was actually only from one category. It's only from the R&B and oldies category. So it would just been too much to do all the categories. So there's obviously a load more styles besides the ones that I played that are only on the 920. So that's point one. And the second thing that I forgot to mention, getting old, forget a lot of things these days, is expansions. So the expansion is double the memory. So basically, you know, one of the things we do before we send these out is fill it with everything that we can humanly possibly fill it with that's useful. And one of those things is expansion packs. It involves the software on the computer, so we just do it all anyway. It's all free. And there's twice as much stuff, roughly twice as much stuff that we can put in the 920 than we can in a 720 or an SX900, because the memory is about double on the SX920. Okay, so that's about it, and thanks for watching.